Just give us the thumbs up when button press is effective. Get us on. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is a meeting of the Township Council for a conference meeting of January 4th, 2022. This is a conference meeting of the Council of the Township of Montclair and is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live on the TV 34 YouTube channel that is available on demand and can and will be rebroadcast. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting was included in the revised annual notice of the meeting schedule set forth in Resolution R21-210, adopted by the Council at its conference meeting of November 15, 2021. Advertised in the official newspaper on December 30th, 2021, posted at the bulletin boards outside of the municipal building. It has remained continuously posted. In addition, a copy of the revised annual notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Township Clerk. With that, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Cummings,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Present.
Councilor Price Abrams,
Present.
Councilor Russo, Councilor Schlager,
Here.
Councilor Yacobelis,
Present.
Mayor Spiller.
Present. Thank you. All right. Next, we'll go to public comment in an effort to minimize exposure to COVID-19 and to maintain social distancing practices. This January 4th meeting of the Council and further meetings until the pandemic is over will only be available to the public remotely. Those who wish to participate now during public comment should dial into 408-418-9388. When asked to enter an access code, please enter 2333 974-3965 and press pound. When asked to enter an attendee number, please simply press pound. When asked, please state your name and then press pound. The administrator will say when it's the caller's turn to speak. The caller will then hear 2 beeps. At that time, the caller will have an opportunity to make his or her comments. Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fan, I turn it over to you, please, to manage.
Thank you, sir. First up will be caller with the number starting 646-220. It is your turn to call, to comment. 646-220, please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hello, my name's Max. I say yes. All right. Hi, my name's Max Shaw. I am a 10-year-old and a 5th grader at Watchung. I wanted to call to say how important the skate park is to me and ask for a permanent park. The courts have been such a great place to meet kids and other of my friends. The skate park has supported girls to skate and all abilities to skate. It is a supportive and loving place to skate and learn. I have met the best people here, like some of my friends. So I thank you for letting us have a temporary skate park, and especially during COVID lockdown. Over the year, there has been more skaters learning and joining in to skate and coming to the temporary park. I would ask that we would be able to expand because it is getting very crowded with the new skaters just waiting for spring. I think that the place that we are at is a perfect space. Also, I play tennis, and I have like 30 other courts to choose from, but it is also a very small space to skate. I think the current location is great for all of us to be able to skate and to arrive from school. Thank you again for supporting the skate park, and I can't wait for the real permanent space for the Lysis Saloon's sculptures.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You did a great job sharing those comments, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Next will be caller with the number starting 973-746. It is your turn to comment. 973-746, please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is Philip Bellman. I am in 5th grade at Bradford School. Thank you for listening to me. I love skateboarding because it's fun and creative, and I can learn new tricks. I love the court because it's a skate park I can go to, and it's close to my house, and it's a good place to make friends. Also, all the other skate parks are at least 20 minutes away. For me to have a permanent skate park would be good because for people learning to skate, it would be good and right there for them to learn. And I'll always have a real place to skate. I think for other towns that don't have a skate park, it would be a place that they can go, and it would be cool to see the Alexis Soblone sculptures. Montclair needs a real skate park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Next will be caller with the number starting 973-655. 973-655. It is your turn to comment. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device. 973-655. Next would be 973-868. 973-868. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Jason Gleason, Executive Director of Montclair Center Bid. I'd like to first off thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time tonight, and I'd like to wish you all in the administration a Happy New Year. Look forward to doing great things with you in 2022. Before I get to what I'm going to say, I got to say, as a former skater myself, it's very cool to hear these kids calling in and getting civically engaged. So kudos to the two callers before me, and also happy to see the skate park on the agenda this evening myself. I'm calling tonight in regards to proposed Ordinance O-22-01. I'd like to say first and foremost that we are delighted to see that the opening of the Midtown deck is imminent. Also very happy to see the Township taking steps to initiate the start of an employee parking program in Montclair. This idea has been suggested and envisioned for downtown within the master plan, NIGON parking study, and has also been heartily endorsed by the BIDS Parking and Pedestrian Safety Committee for years, a committee that spent considerable time in researching this very topic. Being mindful that this is the first reading of this ordinance, and also that this is a conference meeting of the council, I was compelled to offer myself and members of our Parking and Pedestrian Safety Committee to you as a resource to help in benchmarking, defining details, assisting with implementation and rollout, analyzing performance, and hopefully phasing up of this program. And we would appreciate the opportunity to help you guys create a successful employee-employer parking experience downtown while helping alleviate on-street parking congestion. Kudos for getting this going, and thank you guys very much again for your time.
Just say that to the bid, Jason Gleason, appreciate the work. I know as a liaison to the bid for so many years, and now knowing the work that you do. Kudos for the work that has been put into this, and certainly I think we're all really pleased how quickly this deck went up as part of a project that again was funded in large part through the last major development that we had. So talk about a win for public good, and couldn't agree more. Really thrilled to be able to implement this employee parking plan here. And to your point, note, let's see if we can see success here and then scale that up to other places as well. But absolutely noted, and I'm sure Mr. Stafford also heard the offer there. I heard offer for free help, Mr. Stafford. So I'm sure taking advantage anyway needed in that work. But appreciate it. Thank you.
Next will be caller with the number 310497. It is your turn to comment. 310497. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, I'm Lynn Hendy, Mayor Spiller, and members of the council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm also really pleased to hear the young people participate. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Environmental Committee. Our committee has sent a letter to Mayor Spiller and the council thanking them for amending the township's law on gas-powered leaf blowers to further restrict their use and to take steps to promote better compliance by landscaping companies, property managers, and residents. These actions notably reduced air and noise pollution in Montclair this summer, and we thank you for your leadership on this matter. On behalf of the Montclair League of Women Voters Environmental Committee, we urge you to ensure that the township government is taking further steps to honor the purpose of the law. Unfortunately, it's our understanding that Montclair's Department of Community Services still uses GLBs to maintain municipal properties, even as other local governments have begun to transition their grounds equipment away from GLBs to safer, healthier, and greener electric alternatives. The township's inaction puts employees and community members at unnecessary risk. It also raises questions of fairness and weakens compliance with the law, since many companies and residents question why they should honor a law that the township does not apply to itself. In the letter we sent to the council, we outlined some actions the township could take quickly to address these concerns, so I won't restate them now when you have such a full agenda tonight. Speaking for myself, I believe it's only a matter of time before GLBs are fully banned everywhere due to the unambiguous science of their dangers. Montclair has long been one of New Jersey's leading municipalities on environmental issues, and I would love it if Montclair could once again lead the charge for a complete ban as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-698. 973-698. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name's Diane Herbst. I realize that many people skate, and I understand it's beneficial for skaters to have a dedicated skate park. However, it does not have to be at the expense of those of us who play tennis and rely on the few remaining beautiful courts at Rand. Myself and a group of other tennis players are very disappointed in you for considering taking all the courts at Rand. There are numerous tennis players in town, and tennis is one of the few outdoor sports during COVID. You have to play tennis on a tennis court. Skating can be done on any open lot or space. And I encourage the town to find other places that are suitable for a skate park without taking away one of the few areas desperately needed for tennis. For example, what about working with a large school or church with lots throughout town that may be willing to provide the space, or pave an open space to create another skating spot rather than make it even harder to find a spot to play tennis? Like I said, there's not enough courts in town as it is. Different school teams throughout the town reserve them for long stretches of time, and no one else is allowed at that time. When a court is free, it's so busy that there is a time limit, so it makes no sense to make even fewer courts available. Tennis is a sport for all ages. Skating generally favors a younger set of individuals. You rarely see a senior skating, and it seems unfair to benefit this age-limited segment of the population at the expense of a broader group. What about people in my age bracket? Again, I want to reiterate that at the same time, I recognize that many love to skate and need a safe place to do it. I just don't understand why it has to be at the expense of another. Also, the Rand courts are different than other courts in town. They're in better shape than many courts with less cracks, less insects, and less trees overhanging that drop debris. And they provide easy parking right next to the courts, which is safer for children. For example, Nishwing gets completely covered in leaves in the fall. In the spring, there's tons of allergen-causing debris falling off the trees onto the courts, and also the location at Rand and the setup is better suited to those with disabilities who have trouble getting their equipment, their ball machine, et cetera, from the car to the court. It's also not reasonable to tell tax-paying town residents to go play at a private club. There's significant costs to playing at a private club, and many cannot afford the fee. And also, many clubs are indoors, which may not be an option to many given the COVID situation. And then finally, I understand the council just said you don't have enough money for a senior center or to repair the Clary Anderson skating arena. I don't understand how you have enough for a skate park. And it sounds like the council is picking and choosing what they want to do instead of listening to your
Sound like your
residents.
time expiring, so please do us the service of concluding your comments.
I'm done. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 201744. It is your turn to comment. 201744. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
My name is Dr. Arlena Ginsberg, and I've been a resident of Montclair since this June. I am here because, and thank you so much for listening to me. I'm here because I want to passionately speak out against the mask mandate. I feel that masks are not effective in decreasing the transmission of COVID, and they prevent us from actually breathing air that we were meant to breathe as humans. They increase carbon dioxide inhalation, and our oxygenation is really suffering. And I also find that it's divisive, because people who decide not to wear masks are now prevented from really going to places that they are where they can connect with other people. So I feel that businesses and people should have a choice as to whether to wear masks or not, because in my opinion, it's not the way to care for each other. In my opinion, it's what really divides us and brings more fear, as opposed to bringing us together, which is the way to deal with the current state of events. So I appreciate you guys listening to me and to my opinion, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973744. It is your turn to comment. 973744, please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
My phone number starts at 9744. I don't know, is there anyone with that number?
It
If
would be your turn.
7609 last night.
It would be your turn.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Nadia. I live at 22 St. Luke's Place. I've been a resident of Montclair for 21 years. I'm a single parent, immigrant, dealing with health issues, raising my son, and staying in this town is instrumental for me and my family's safety and well-being, and we would like to stay in this town and without fear of being forced out because of exorbitant rent increases. And I want to thank you for all your tireless work on the rent freeze and the rent control issues, and I hope rent control is really implemented so we can continue living and thriving in this town without, as I said, fear of being forced out. And I think this fear is very, very real. Last night I got a call from my landlord who told me that as soon as the rent freeze expires on April 1st, he will raise the rent by $200-300 per month, which is absolutely unacceptable. And the building recently did not have a heat for 20 straight days due to Class 1 PCG violation, which refers to cracked boiler and unsafe heat exchange with possibility of severe gas leak. There was no communication from the landlords about this issue. The building wasn't offered to stay at a hotel. Only certain individuals were approached with that option. We were given one heater per apartment, which it's impossible to adequately heat the space. I had to use the gas stove to heat the building, to heat the apartment. I had to get an extra heater. I was recovering from surgery. I cannot tell you what I went through this 20 days. And when I put that into a note to my landlord and why I'm deducting from my rent, he called me last night and had a very nasty exchange. Like, he was screaming at me and harassing me that I will hear from his lawyer. He's going to throw us in court, and we're going to pay for this $50,000 replacement of the heater, and I should go and tell all the tenants that. And I don't believe that we as a tenant should be penalized and be charged with building improvements that had to make the building actually into compliance and to be brought with housing and health codes. So I really hope for your consideration and vote and really implementing this rent control so we do not live in fear and being harassed by our landlords and being threatened with such a rent increase, so we can continue living and thriving in this town.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, excuse me.
I asked that the previous caller, if possible, alert or provide us with the location and address, because it seems a lot of that is unacceptable. But I also ask her, please be careful using your stove as heat. That can be very
Yes,
dangerous.
we were not given another option, sir. I understand, but that was not another option. There was no option offered to us
I thought
to
you were.
deal
Oh,
with
I'm
that
sorry. I
situation.
thought you had stopped. Ma'am, I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting you. But please, you can get our email addresses, and I ask you to please email me directly because you brought some very serious concerns up.
Oh, absolutely. And what is the email that I should be emailing to?
It's you. I say email all of us, but mine's is dcummings@montclairusa.org, and you can get it off the town website.
Okay.
We're all
Thank you, sir.
first
Thank
And
you.
ma'am, you can call my office tomorrow too. The number is 973-509-4926. Again,
Mhm.
509-4926. And at that time, we'll take your information down and forward it to the appropriate investigating entities who will look into the matter. But
No, I mean, the matter has been resolved and resolved. I spoke today with Pat, what was his last name, with the building director, so we had a conversation. He's aware of the situation. I mean, the situation has been rectified, but the way it was handled was unacceptable. And now, like, getting these calls and threats about possible rent increase as a way of retaliation or whatever, just to bearing costs of exorbitant repair, I don't think it's fair to us. That's why I'm appearing tonight to let you know about what's happening in this building.
I think I understand, and I'm glad that you spoke with the appropriate persons. The gentleman that you referenced is one of the fellows and folks working for the township who would have investigated. So I'm glad that that was rectified.
Yes, but yes, my hope is that this ordinance really takes place, because it's just not possible to continue this way. And living in fear is the last thing I wish to any human being.
Thank you to you. Next would be caller with the number.
First and foremost, we certainly wish you health in the new year. You said you had some health things, so hopefully you're doing okay. And certainly, as Councilman Cummings noted, it's a shame you really had to go through the situation, especially, how cold it is now, but hopefully, again, wasn't too crazy for you and in a somewhat unsafe situation. But to your specific pieces, certainly want to note that we have, remained committed to rent control here. We've been focused on it. We have very proudly been the last council, first one to enact a rent control ordinance. And certainly here we've had the majority who support it, and certainly also the majority supporting a rent freeze. So, we have that in place as well for protections. And our commitment is to try and ensure that not only you, but others in town continue to stay here, have it remain affordable, and quite frankly, protect the diversity that we all hold and cherish for our township. So that's a yes in terms of my commitment. And certainly I know a lot of us share that commitment as well. Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thank you, Mayor. And, I appreciate, obviously the caller evoked a lot of concern among, many of us, all of us. But if ma'am, if you wouldn't mind providing your contact information by calling the manager tomorrow. I think you said St. Luke's Place. So I think, there's that detail. I'd be happy to help interface going forward if need be. But also, there is a landlord-tenant housing advisory committee that, should there be issues in the future, may be able to help, listen to the parties and help educate a landlord who may be out of compliance. It's just part of the mechanism that might be available going forward. Hope you don't need them. Anyway, thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 917-532. It is your turn to comment. 917-532. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, this is Bo from Montclair. I'm in 5th grade. The Court Skate Park is my favorite place in Montclair. There's so many skaters, really good ones, and so many kids who are learning to skate now. I'm so happy we have the 2 courts, but it's way too small. There's a lot of skaters, and it gets very busy and crowded, and barely anyone uses the tennis courts next to us. Some of the tennis players even wonder why we don't have all 4 courts. Alexis Sablon's sculptures would be awesome in the other 2 courts. Thank you for the safe place. It's changed the lives of so many kids. I've made I've met some of my best friends at the course. I hope we have a real permanent park in Montclair. Montclair needs a permanent skate park. Thank you for your time. Bye. My mother would like to say some words.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Spiller and Town Council. I just want to very quickly address the previous caller who is concerned with losing tennis courts in Montclair to a skate park. To my knowledge, there are approximately 30 tennis courts in Montclair. The United States Tennis Association recommends 1 tennis court per 10,000 people. According to this, 4 tennis courts would be appropriate for a town of Montclair size. I'm certainly not suggesting that Montclair should have 4 tennis courts, but I think you understand this really isn't a point to consider when deciding whether Montclair kids, teens, adults, families, and kids with special needs who have been using these 2 courts now for almost a couple of years in June. Also, one more quick point. Many of the town council members and Mayor Spiller already know that it is not easy to find a safe, good place to skate in Montclair. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.
Mr. Mayor, may I respond to that?
Sure. Mr. Scantlebury.
It was noted that the USTA, their metrics say that it's 1 court for every 10,000 people. That's true, but they also said that the number be based on the number of players within a 6-mile radius or a 15 to 20-minute drive. Now, I was kind of disappointed that wasn't thrown in, but if that metric is used, the USTA's metric, and using the 5 miles, that would include Verona, Bloomfield, Cedar Grove, West Orange, Nutley, Little Falls, Clifton, and Belleville. And that population, along with our 38,000, would bring it to 329,663 people, which would mean 33 tennis courts. Okay, so the number was correct, but the whole story wasn't told on that. And I just wanted to make that clear for everyone.
Well, I have to add a comment there too. To complete the story, then you also have to count and consider that there are tennis courts in all of those other towns as well.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. That's right. But the USTA says when they gave that 1 court for 10,000 people, their metric was a circumference of 6 miles. Okay,
Right.
That's their metric, 6 miles.
Thank you both, and thank you.
And one more thing, Montclair has 16 courts, 7 at Mountainside, 6 at Nishawayne, and 1 at Canterbury. And then we have the 2 at Rand. We don't have 30-some courts in Montclair.
Right, thank you, Mr. Scantlebury. I appreciate the caller and Mom for jumping on both. I appreciate that. Although I have to note when it was noted that, as Mayor Spiller notes, not a good place to skate or a safe place. I'm not sure if that's judged based on you seeing my skating style when I went down there a couple times. I think, Councilwoman Schlager, I see you shaking your head, so I'm not going to hold that against you. But I thought I did it right for myself. I'll just note, but I guess it's debatable. All right, thank you, Mr. Stafford.
Generally, my experience is if you don't break anything, you did very well for yourself.
But that is how I judged it.
That's just me.
You and I are on the same page, so
Yeah.
that's how I scored myself. Yes.
The next caller would be with the number starting 973-747. 973-747. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Yes, my name is Rennie. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. We begin a new year, and I hope it will indeed turn out to be a happy one for all of us. I don't wish to be negative, especially after hearing so many of the wonderful kids who have called in tonight, but we do indeed live in hard and perplexing times. And I'm reminded of the opening lines of Shakespeare's Richard III, which read, "Now is the winter of our discontent." Well, it is sadly a time of discontent, in our world, in our country, and indeed in Montclair. But at this point, I wish to address my remarks to Mayor Spieler. I'm still much perplexed and annoyed at his infamous editorial, which was titled, "Keeping New Jersey Blue Starts in Montclair." As other callers have opined in the past about this Spiller piece, he certainly has ripped off his phony mask of nonpartisanship, which is supposedly what is to characterize Montclair Township government. Because of the little time that I am afforded in this context, I can't go into some of the specifics contained in the mayor's editorial. However, I must assume that the other members of the council have read it, have thought about it, and have opinions about it. Therefore, I would like each council person tonight to comment on the mayor's article and how they feel about it. The only exception should be Councilman at Large Russo, who has expressed his opinions in the past, and we therefore don't need any more superfluousness, redundancy, and or sycophancy. Actually, I think it's important at this juncture that we also hear from Deputy Mayor Herlock about Mayor Spieler's piece. Before we do that, I would like to call your attention to the mayor's press release from the New Jersey Education Association concerning the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict in Wisconsin. Why the hierarchy of the NGAA would comment on an out-of-town trial is beyond my understanding. It is clear, however, that Mr. Spieler and his NGEA cohorts believe that the verdict indicates that our justice system is broken. Well, it isn't broken. It worked very well. The trial was fair, and a jury of Mr. Rittenhouse's peers found him innocent on all five counts, actually, against him. The system worked, and it worked in the Jesse Smollett case as well. How about a comment or two from the NGEA about that case, Mr. Spieler? I would appreciate now comments from council members on the subject I brought up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number 973820. It is your turn to comment. 973820. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Hi, it's Toni Martin with the Tenants Organization of Montclair. I was, as I'm sure I saw that you all were struck by the commentary about from Nadia, about her situation at St. Luke's Place. She is a member of our organization, and we have been trying to help, but as you know, until we have an ordinance in place, that is more difficult. And in fact, we don't have the landlord-tenant housing committee in place yet either. I know you're working on it. I know it's coming, but we're still hanging out here. I'm going to tell you about another example in my own building. I got involved in tenant advocacy 4 years ago because of a situation in our building with the imposition of rent increases that were very large and pet fees and parking fees and so on. Right now, our situation is we haven't had a superintendent or a building manager for some months. A couple of people were hired in those positions. They lasted only a few weeks for various reasons. In any case, so when little emergencies occur, such as a front door lock being broken, my mailbox key got lost and they didn't have a spare. The fire alarm was going off for 36 hours one weekend. One of our tenants had a leaking faucet. The thing is, we don't have anyone to call because there is no registration of landlords, and our landlord maintains a firewall on the portal so that if something happens in the middle of the night, tough luck. And you might not hear back for some days. I just want to reiterate why the ordinance provisions that each landlord register their property, identify themselves, and be subject to regulation by the town is so critical. I really thank you for all you've done on this. I wish us all a good new year with rent control in place. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 917900. It is your turn to comment. 917900. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
My name is Sulaiman Imam. I'm calling on behalf of the Tenants Organization of Montclair as well. I represent 819 Bloomfield Avenue, and I'm training as the main contact for the clergy of Montclair who support rent control. Personally, I moved to Montclair to be near family. I found it to be a beautiful place with an incredible and diverse community. I love it here, and I want to stay. My very first offer of lease renewal involved a rent increase in defiance of the current freeze and approaching the limits of affordability and reason. But however, I am confident in my decision to stay in Montclair because of your unwavering support of the rent control ordinance, which we hope will be resolved soon. I thank you for your actions to protect renters, and I hope you continue your work to keep people in their homes and in their communities at this critical time. The Tenants Organization of Montclair, you can reach that for intake at tenantsorganizationmontclair@gmail.com or by phone at 973-936-8848. We can also be reached on Facebook at our Tomb Advocacy page. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, Mr. Stafford, Mayor. With regard to Toni Martin's call before and then this caller, I just want to clarify the status of the Landlord Tenant Advisory Committee, Housing Committee, we renamed it. While it has not been fully reconstituted in its new form because we don't have the complement of members yet, the existing body is still functioning and can be reached for tenants with questions, comments, or if landlords have questions or comments. And so I just wanted to let folks know that there is a place to turn still, and they can be helping to folks understand the status of the law and provide information in that regard. So I just actually, Ms. Malloy is just an email popped as I was speaking. So I just want to make clear that at present there is still an entity for residents in town to take advantage of and get some help and advice with regard to landlord and tenant issues. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 862926. 862926. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device. Okay, I believe that caller hung up. Next would be caller with the number starting 973619. It is your turn to comment. 973619, please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So, good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year. I'm Ahava Felicidad, President of the Tenants Organization of Montclair. I want to start out with a huge yes for the skateboarders. Such an amazing balance is required to skateboard. These kids need a safe place to skate. I've seen them there, and there are a lot of them. They're the next generation. So it's such a great outlet for them to have, and I'm glad that they are getting this. Just clean up Micheline and keep it moving. I also want to say, again, to echo Toni, Nadia is connected to us, and there are a lot of issues in her building, and we will be helping with the follow-up, myself and other team leads and leaders. And, I don't like hearing and feeling my friend in such distress or any of our neighbors in this community. She's not feeling well and still found garnered up or found some strength to make this call in. We talked earlier, and I'm glad that she was able to call in so you guys could know what's going on. They need a lot of help over there. We have people, caring, passionate advocates in this town who have visible and invisible disabilities helping with the rent control movement. I know what that is like because I had one. I reversed cardiomyopathy that I had in 2001, basically by 2003. I was working out 4 days a week, weight training, elliptical pushing, treadmill running. I skipped the heart transplant list, thank God. I was able to recover, live a full life, keep making money, and be recruited in positions for my expertise with numbers and contracts. I worked with foreign nationals from Israel to Turkey to the Caribbean islands and parts of Europe and the United States. I was 26 years old when this started, yet double my age and work experience. At the beginning of this journey, I saw that rent control for Montclair was actually another gift for me to move on along my journey of serving other people. It was given to me by God and my late mother, who had greater things for me to do. So this is why, I've said that I'm not going to stop, like as if my life depends on it. There are people out here who are in a lot of distress, and they're still fighting through. Many of them are not behind in their rent. They're current in their rent. You're hearing from callers who are paying rent, whether they're actually going out to work or they're virtual, they're still paying. So it's not going to be this topple or mow you over because you didn't pay and you're not well. They're fighting to be well. Nadia's fighting to be well, to take care of her family. I'm thankful for every person who has joined the movement and wish to see it come to its fruition with regards to our rent control being implemented. We're starting a series of posts acknowledging everyone on our Facebook page, thanking them at Tomb Advocacy. Myself, Amanda, Trevor.
3 minutes expiring, so please do us the service of concluding your comments.
Yes, thank you. Myself, Amanda, Trevor, Jasmine, Amber, and Sulema. We at Tomb are thankful for the mayor and council for your continuous support of renters and renters' rights here in our magnificent Montclair, New Jersey, and to the clergy of Montclair, thank you. I would like to name you all, but now, I should have my 5 minutes. I'll accept the 3. Again, thank you, and reach out to us, Tenants Organization Montclair at gmail.com, 973-936-8848. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 646-220. It is your turn to comment. 646-220.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Holly. I'm a local resident. I was actually listening, and I just wanted to call in actually about the tennis courts. I am a tennis player, and I actually captain a tennis team. And I'm actually fully in support of the skate park in the Rand place. I was just listening to the comments about the amount of tennis courts we need in Montclair. There's a permit that you need to play in Montclair, which is for Montclair residents. So I don't know why we're concerned about the adequate tennis courts for outside the area. And I know that someone just commented about 16 tennis courts, but we actually have Brookdale as well, which has 9 tennis courts. But I just wanted to kind of maybe present just a different side to this. And I actually grew up, poor, and I always wanted to play tennis. And it's an affluent sport. It's not for everyone. Everyone can afford to play tennis. And so with the skate park, I'm just such a huge fan of what's been happening there with what Skate Essex is doing. There's a kid who gives skate lessons to girls and to all abilities. And I think it's just such a great place that creates an equitable situation for Montclair residents. And I have 3 kids here in Montclair, and I just think that giving up 2 tennis courts to our, 86, if you count Verona, Cedar Grove, Montclair, there's 86 tennis courts. So I think I just want to advocate for these kids who are advocating for a skate park. And I think giving up 2 courts at Rand is absolutely acceptable. And we have plenty of other tennis courts to play. I captain a team. I play on our public courts. I play on private courts. there's not a lot of people playing at Rand, and I hope that you can consider giving these skaters a bigger space, especially when you drive by and there's 30 kids on 2 courts, and you have one tennis player, giving a lesson on the other court. I think these kids should have a space, and I think I'm such in awe of how they've advocated for the space, raised money for it, and really try to give back to the community in terms of like giving free skate lessons, free skateboards. So I just wanted to just present that side of it. I think it's just such a safe space for kids, and as a resident, I just love seeing what's happening there. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973783. 973783. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
My name is Melly Christmas, and good evening to all of you and the mayor, councilor, and a happy new year. I am speaking on behalf of Rand skating ring there. I live in the area. I feel that we should have a part to share. There's the tennis court, there's the skating ring, and there's the basketball court, and there's a small part there for the children that can go and play. I feel that we should, in this neighborhood, be able to have 1/4 of the pie. I heard the young children speak on behalf of it, and that's great. But what about the traffic? What about more people? What about being satisfied with what we have, and we have all these other skating rings for skateboards to go elsewhere? It's not that we don't have parts for them. Rand parking lot is not a huge parking lot. And I wish that if you could consider that we be satisfied with what we have. I appreciate it, and I hope that we can work this out and not take the space for all the skateboard to be there. Let's share, let's be loving, let's be neighbors, let's be friends. What we can do, we can all work together as one. I thank you, and be blessed.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 862926. 862926. It is your turn to to comment. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
My name is Edward Robin. I'm with the Montclair Library Friends and Montclair Library Friends Steering Committee, and I am calling to comment on the temporary budget that's being introduced at tonight's meeting, and specifically with respect to the portion of the temporary budget that applies to the Montclair Public Library. The amount that is in the temporary budget for the library is approximately $717,000. This represents the, if I understand it correctly, represents the New Jersey mandated minimum required payment due to the library. I realize this is a temporary budget, and that it may change over time. However, I request that the council give serious consideration to adopting the proposed budget submitted by the Montclair Public Library for 2022 that includes both the state mandatory minimum plus additional discretionary funds. If the library is limited to the state minimum requirement payment, then the library will be forced to reduce its staff and reduce its services. I don't believe that's an appropriate thing to have happen in Montclair this year. I also wish to speak regarding the joint funding agreement. It is my hope that the council will decide to eliminate the joint funding agreement and come up with a more suitable alternative. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Mr. Mayor, Manager, Mr. Mayor. Haven't said much tonight. I'm not going to say a lot. I had a funeral today. My best, closest cousin, of course. So I've been very quiet tonight, but my friend Ed Robin, who reminded me of my mom, who I spoke about today at the funeral for my cousin, who was my mother's side, her only sister's son. So Ed, I know you called in a lot, and I'm glad you brought this up because I was putting a question next to the agenda myself, wanting to know if we're going to do this tonight. This is new business, Mr. Manager, tonight, right? Resolution, it's number B or letter B. We're going to do it tonight, temporary budget. This is not for discussion, it's for passage.
That's correct.
Now, as Mr. Robbins said, there's a quarter of the money which is what we have to do in any temporary budget. But a quarter of the money is really the only, the total of $717,000 is only the state mandated amount, which we obviously have to go, not below. Does this allow for any increase if we want to give more money to the library? If this quarter of the budget is passed the way it is, that doesn't lock us into not increasing the next quarters, does it?
It has absolutely no impact on any line item that the governing body would want to adjust upwardly or downwardly in the budget. It allows the government to function until the budget is adopted. And statutorily, a municipal government in New Jersey is not allowed to adopt a temporary budget with an appropriation exceeding 26.25%.
26.25% of the previous year.
Of last year's appropriation, correct.
That's what I wanted to get clear. So we're just.
And there are some exclusions. I beg your pardon. There are some exclusions. For instance, debt service, capital improvements, public assistance grants. None of those would apply in this instance, though. But no, to answer your question directly, the governing body would not be constrained or restrained from changing any of the line items in an upward or downward manner.
I'm not asking this because I don't know what I'm talking about, as I think somebody might have been implying a moment ago. I know how this works, and I'm trying to make it clear for the public and for Mr. Robbins that passing this with $717,000 in it doesn't mean that the next quarter or the next 3 quarters can't be more than that, right? That's what we're saying. But this is what we have to hold to now by statute.
Correct.
So this is going to be done tonight. I just wanted to get all that clear. And Ed, thank you for calling in. Thank you for what you did for my mother all those years. And I'll talk to you about my cousin's passing when I see you. Thank you, Manager and Mayor.
Mayor, can I comment?
Thank you. Councilman Yacobelis.
I just want to say also, Bob, that we're still waiting for I shouldn't say we're still waiting for, but we're engaged in dialogue with the trustees of the library on what they're looking for additional funding, how they would spend it for the year ahead. So this is just a continuation of the standard allocations of the statutory minimum, but the conversation for the budget for 2022 and what the appropriate level of funding would be for the library is, I think, frankly, just beginning, especially with the executive director having left. They need a new one. So the trustees have jumped in, and following meeting that Councilor Schlager, Councilor Price Abrams, and I had with trustees and their attorneys and auditors and a whole bunch of folks, one of the follow-up items was that the trustees would send us their request. So they would be on dual paths. The Finance Committee would get it as typical, and we would also get it as well to deliberate. So that conversation, I know, is meant to take place over the next few weeks in terms of the funding level, in addition to the statutory minimum that the council would want to give the library for 2022.
Mayor, there are no more callers in the queue.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone. And thank you to all the callers for calling in with their comments. With that, I'll close public comment. Next is a new business ordinance, Ordinance O-22-01, which is ordinance amending certain parking fees and regulations. Madam Clerk, it has been properly noticed in other pieces, correct? Or that's for the hearing that we're going to have?
Yes, sir. That's right.
All right. So this one, I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and I'll just comment, Mr. Stafford, as you heard from Jason Gleason at the bid, you know, it's a job well done with everything coming up with the some of the parking for employees and some of the other structures there that saves us a little money and also removes some of those vehicles from some of the prime locations. So well done. I did hear a request offered to see how we can scale that up or implement other pieces in other spots. So if you can connect your team with them as needed to ensure we have a plan to assess and of course grow this as needed, that would be great. But with that, any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Sorry. Mayor, I did. Apologize. I just wanted to comment that this is something that, you know, we don't have an EDC meeting scheduled between now and when this would be voted on. So I don't know if we could have three of us talk about this. Maybe that's me, you, and Councilor Price Abrams or something like that. I think we should think about, you know, I was up in Salem again last week, Massachusetts, and been back and forth there a few times in the last year. That's where Ben's family lives. And one of the things that works really, really well there, and they're comparable to us in a lot of ways, demographics, core business districts, things like that. One of the things that works really well for them is they incentivize parking in the decks versus on the streets. So they flip their pricing model so that it's a little bit less expensive to park in the decks versus the meters on the street, so that people are incentivized to go right to the decks instead of circling on the streets. So just something to throw out there for us to talk about. I wonder if we can consider first 15 minutes free in this parking deck and maybe even our others, the Crescent, as a way to incentivize, you know, if you're running an errand downtown, you could, you know, park your car in the Midtown parking deck, run around into the Studio 042 to pick up your print job or pick up your bicycle parts or whatever you need from Diamond Cycle, just as a thought. And I think we should just look at what towns around the state and the country are doing to work on this, because this whole notion of incentivizing parking in decks so you get people off the streets and you take pressure off the meters seems to be taking off in a lot of communities. The other way to approach that would be the rate. So if it's not first 15 minutes free, then even just doing like $1.75 or $1.50 an hour to making it a quarter or 50 cents less than the meters as well. So we'd just like for us to talk about that before and consider maybe amending this if we want to pilot something at this deck. And I know, Jason mentioned, and you also mentioned the 20% as well, and considering that for other decks too, I think that would be a really good thing to roll out, and obviously involve the business community more broadly and some of the offices to make sure their employees are aware of and able to participate. I know there's a different gate that's at the top of the deck to get in that you would need your swipe card programmed for. So ways to talk about deploying that to other decks too. So I just wonder if, we could try and have a meeting between now and that to see if we would amend this at all before enacting it, since we don't have committee meetings before that.
Councilwoman Price Abrams.
You're on mute, Lori.
I believe she's muted.
There we go. So I do appreciate that the Midtown deck, as has been noted, is about to be online, and that's what's got us talking about rates and such. And so that is, as noted, great news. And the businesses that have been impacted, I know will be very glad to get back to regular kinds of traffic, and obviously the opportunity for more parking that has been always a great need in the downtown area in particular. I do think there are some features that the bid has been looking at, and whether any of the ideas that Councilman Yacobelis just mentioned get thrown in, as this downtown area is much of what we're talking about with the decks. Would be very glad to be in those discussions, as noted with potentially you, Mayor, and Councilman Yacobelis. I just think it might be valuable for us to take that time to see if we can have a conversation. If there is anything that might be workable for short order, I would sort of second that idea. And if it can't be, then we obviously need to get the deck up and running with rates set for the public, that we would commit ourselves to, early on, first quarter type thing, see if we want to revisit these things. But if there's something that we think we can accomplish in a short time, I value that opportunity as well.
And Mr. Mayor, I just have one question. Sounds good, looks good, but who's going to enforce it? How do you enforce this?
Excuse me, Councilman, enforce, what are you saying there? Enforce which piece?
What Councilor Yacobelis mentioned in terms of offering free parking for a certain amount of time. I mean, how do you regulate it to understand when does 15 minutes begin or end?
When you go into the deck, the ticket is time stamped. And then when you exit the deck, if it's within 15 minutes, the gate would just go up and it would be free. And over 15 minutes, it would charge you for the first hour. It's what the private deck at the Seymour Street lot does. And it's just a software programming component for the hardware that's there.
So to the question of meeting to discuss beforehand, I know for the benefit of those new to the council here, previous councils, we've heard from our parking utility director repeatedly on this issue. They have talked about dynamic pricing, and Councilman Yacobelis is kind of what you're kind of referencing in a way, right? They've talked about dynamic pricing in the sense of nearer to our core downtown areas, to have higher pricing on the meters in those areas, specific to high traffic, high core, areas. As you branch out from those areas, to have different meter rates, let alone, decks, everything, I'll get to those, but different meter rates going further out. And then, of course, exactly as you note, to incentivize people going into decks to have different rates at the decks as well. It is absolutely their biggest dream to implement that. However, they put that in the juxtaposition to our permit wait lists and deck usage and other pieces, and their argument is, and of course comparative to other towns, that our rates at our prime locations on the street are way too low, right? So what stopped us in previous councils of executing, right, was not, and again, when you've got in council, and Mr. Scannabur, you could speak to this because I think you were copied on an email. I just asked recently for what's our longest wait list on some of these permits, right? And you might be able to speak to the year better than me, but I think I saw some of them 10 years out, right? I forget I just got their latest, but whatever they were on there, it was a long time. And basically they know, you should not have that long a wait for some of these things. And it's because other towns around us, Bloomfield primarily and others, are way cheaper at some of their rate structures. So the dynamic pricing that they've talked about is you should pay a premium if you want to pull up right in front of store X in the key part of any downtown, in this case Montclair, and you want to pull in and you want that front row spot, if you will, that space, you should pay X for that. And that should be a premium. But hey, if you're willing to just drive literally a block and make a turn, right, 2 turns and get to a deck, you should absolutely pay a way lower rate. The only issue there, Councilman, and again, we can absolutely have them in to discuss it with the broader group. Certainly those who haven't heard their speech before, of their argument is we shouldn't be lowering some rates in some of these things. They're already way too low, they argue, right? That we should be, again, assessing a premium for some of the prime locations. And they note that we have the technology to do it. They can literally reset these rates from their office and can push them out. We held off on it just because of the dynamic around that, as you might imagine, right? It's talk about rates. And we did it on the understanding and literally part of the master plan saying, hey, let's wait until we have a number of these other decks online. And then let's look at our pricing comprehensively throughout the town. This is, as I think we're all noting, is we got a deck that's about to open. We need to have prices in place. But I think that broader conversation is one that I think everyone would welcome. We've heard from we've heard from repeatedly, and certainly I think it's good to hear it again of what does that look like and why they would argue we should be looking at again those prime prices for prime locations. But that's kind of the same thing you're saying, but looking at it the other way. So so that's a yes. We should continue. We should absolutely have those conversations broadly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, and one more quick comment too, that the deck next to the Wellmont Theater, which I think we call the Seymour Street deck, which is private, of course. They do 15 minutes free. So if you're a consumer going downtown to shop and you're choosing between the deck that's going to give Montclair revenue or the deck that's going to give a private owner revenue, they're incentivized to go to the private deck. So I just would want us to be thinking about that competition as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think either way, while revenue is a big thing, the goal is to drive people, to their deck, our deck, off the key, corridors of downtown, and you do that with pricing. You do that with either charging premiums, incentivizing, and of course making it easy, right, to get to those locations. So yes, all part of it. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Just, do we have an opening date for the deck?
Mr. Stafford, do you have a hard date?
I don't know. A hard date? No, I don't, but I will ask the developer for an estimated date and relay it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Next is Resolution R-22-001. It's a resolution authorizing the adoption of the 2022 temporary budget, and I so move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Next is Resolution R-22-002, resolution authorizing an agreement between the Township of Montclair and Toni's Kitchen to partially underwrite emergency daytime respite services to the homeless, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and certainly I would just note, much as we've done in the past too, this is another effort on our part to, especially with the cold weather, we've all seen it here and we're in it now, to allow a space for individuals to stay warm, to have an option to heat up for a space and a time period if you're homeless. And certainly we know that we do have an opportunity in that regard already for evening hours. But this is to allow some of that during the day as well. This is the daytime. Normally, you'd have a lot of cafes or other locations when you talk to individuals who work to help provide some of these supports. They say a lot of times, whether it be some of our public buildings and other places that are open that people could be in at least to warm up Especially in a pandemic, you don't have that opportunity. So this is to help provide that. So any questions, concerns, or comments?
Yes, Mayor?
Councilwoman Price Abrams and then Councilman Russo.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to acknowledge that Councilman Cummings had convened a group of nonprofits and other interested parties in looking at some of the issues around unhoused populations in our town, and just really commend him for pulling people together to do that. And I participated as well, as it's an issue I've had some past experience with, and of course, it's a concerning element of life in America, but even in a town that we take great pains, there's just folks who can be helped more readily with direct provision of services or resources, and some people who are sometimes called chronically homeless, it's something of a choice, or there's just other impediments to them actually accepting housing in some sense. It's something of a choice. I'm sure in some cases maybe it's not, but nonetheless, these are the people that you're talking about, and I do appreciate that we have the opportunity with some modest funding from the town to enable Tony's Kitchen, which is a mission of St. Luke's Church, to just fulfill their mission, which really helps fulfill our mission as well in the case of underserved people who just need, as you said, a place to go from the cold. So it's really just by way of a further acknowledgement of the importance of this. And, I know there are people in the neighborhood on Union Street, for example, who have cited issues with a certain amount of traffic or energy. And I did confirm with Tony's Kitchen that, these operations will really be seamless and, as you noted, indoors, and really will not have any further impact in that neighborhood. I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Russo?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. It's just a question because we know it emphasizes daytime services, daytime respite. Just to review again what we do. And sometimes I know these things because of my many 20 years of experience, as someone just recently insulted me by referring to it. But I know these things, but I still don't know enough. We always can learn more by asking questions and clarifying things. And maybe for the public who we work for, the taxpayers who pay us, we owe them explanations. And somebody asked me, well, if it's daytime services, what happens during the nighttime? And I know that MESH has helped us during the nighttime, that MESH has been very helpful. Montclair Emergency Services for the homeless. And I'm very dedicated and supportive of Tony's Kitchen and also of MESH. So how do the two actually mesh together? Can anybody explain our nighttime versus the daytime services? Or can we maybe put some more funding into MESH and what they do overnight?
So Bob, I appreciate your years of service. And we're continuing to do the same thing we did last year, except this year, MESH is in the process of finding another location for the evening respite. They have new leadership intact. For the next couple of weeks, Union Baptist will continue to do the overnight respite. And then MESH is looking to open up in a new location. They've got 3 places that they've identified. And they also get support and funding from other funders. And the meeting that Lori mentioned, Councilor Price Abrams mentioned earlier, that was a part of the discussion as well, to making sure, and that's where Ann Mernon made the comment about getting the funding for the daytime. So between MESH, the Salvation Army, Union Congregational, they're all working hard, as well as some other churches that look to will be housing the homeless overnight when we have the Code Blue evenings. And the funding that we provide for them, which has been $35,000 in the past, is going to continue as long as this body supports it. And I don't think they need any more, because they do go outside and get other funding that helps them.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Now, I want to just point out that 2 years ago, before you were on the council, before others who joined the council recently, I advocated $50,000 for MESH. So I'm going to still advocate. You say they don't need more, but we can always use more. So I'm still going to advocate that when we look at our budget, we think about how much money we really do need to do the overnight, because that's when the people are really in need of help with the cold temperatures, that whole cause of Dr. Ames, who teaches at Montclair State with me. That to me is so important. She's talked to me many times about the need for more, and I don't want to put her in a position of asking for more, but I'm advocating that we give our mesh partners some more resources. Thank you.
Well, to your point, I put them in touch with the county through some CDBG funding that's available for homeless prevention. So they actually got the with some help with the Montclair funders, MNDC, and the Partners for Health, they were able to meet the deadline, a tight deadline of getting in their request by the 29th. And I want to thank Janice Talley, should also get a shout out for bringing this to their attention. So they're in line to get some more funding through the council's efforts of opening it up to some places or sources of funding that they did not get in the past.
Okay, good. Thank you. We're all on the same page.
The good piece about this is this piece is because of the pandemic. We have a daytime need, and at least in the 9 years I've been here, we've always done the Code Blue funding, and we're going to make sure that continues. Unless I'm not hearing anyone saying otherwise.
Thank you all.
Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Stafford. We have a number of discussion items, if you don't mind.
Sir, there is an item D that was added late. Would you like me to read it?
Please. Yep. I don't have that one in front of me. Yep.
My apologies. Item D would be a resolution designating an attorney from the Township's Law Department to attend the Third River joint meeting. The resolution is self-explanatory. Would you care for me to read the entire thing, sir?
No, I mean, I think that speaks for it. No. Short answer. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and
Question,
seconded.
Mayor.
Now, Councilwoman Schlager and Councilman Russo serve on our Joint River commissions, and certainly we know that we have ongoing legal matters. We've heard about them previously from our township attorney in the past, talking about some of the settlement pieces that are ongoing and some of the need for representation. We know they have broadly legal coverage as well and legal representation, but I know they ask us all to take action in that regard as well, and then quote unquote chip in, if you will, with legal help as needed. So important that the work there is important, and make sure we have it covered. So we're happy to, of course, assist when needed. Any questions, concerns, comments on this one?
Mayor, just wanted to ask again, I know that Councilwoman Schlager and I have been doing this for a number of years, liaison, but we do have the legal help on the Second River, which is actually 7 communities, including Newark, Belleville, Bloomfield, Glenridge, Montclair, East Orange, and Orange, believe it or not. A diverse group that's together. We meet every few months. So what I know is that we have the attorney for Glenridge as our attorney. I just wanted to clarify, because I haven't been on Third River for a long time. It was Ira Robin that was our attorney there, and that's why we need to replace him. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's exactly right. The Township of Montclair's attorney has always sat on that committee. I believe that this committee is just Montclair, Glenridge, and Bloomfield. And I
Right.
believe that Bloomfield and Glenridge do not have a standalone attorney that works for those townships. It's always been the Montclair attorney, and he or she goes to every meeting. There's 4 meetings a year.
Right. Now, the attorney for Glenridge, which is, as you say, he's a part of a law firm, so he's sort of hired as needed, but he's a good attorney. He's been there for years. He made us aware, just want the public to be aware, my colleagues to be aware again, and we've done a good job of keeping up with all this. There's a lawsuit that involves all these communities, right? That goes back to the Occidental Chemical Corporation. It goes back years with Passaic River. There's a lawsuit against the company, but the company turned around, I think, has made the towns the target. So we have to be careful that we don't incur a lot of legal costs, so we don't have a problem of being caught. And so far, our attorney, Gina, and prior to that, Ira, but Gina, I want to compliment Gina DeVito and now Paul Burr are working on this to protect us as towns in the area. And we're working closely with Glen Ridge to make sure we get answers to all questions and make sure we have a presence at all the meetings of all the attorneys of all these towns. But there is a potential for costs and for legal conflict over this issue in the future. Just wanted everybody to be aware as a heads up. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarification. Are we identifying a specific attorney or just a member of, because I realize we don't have it in front of us. I'm sorry, Mr. Manager. So is it one of the attorneys of the legal department of the township? Is that what we're saying? Okay. So there's flexibility.
Correct.
Thanks.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Right, thank you. Now that takes us, Mr. Stafford, please, to discussion items, if you would.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 would be a resolution that would authorize the purchase of goods or services in the year 2022 from the vendors of the listed cooperative pricing councils, purchasing cooperatives, county educational service commissions, purchasing alliances, purchasing networks, or by way of the New Jersey state contract. This resolution's approval would be pursuant to the conditions of each applicable vendor's contract with the particular purchasing organization. Next, on October 19 of 2021, to seize an opportunity to refund outstanding principal amounts from 2014, possibly resulting in a net present value savings of $1.5 million over 15 years, as estimated by bond counsel and subject to market changes. This governing body adopted a refunding bond ordinance provided for the refunding of all or a portion of certain general improvement refunding bonds, water utility refunding bonds, school refunding bonds, and parking utility refunding bonds. Item number 2 would be a required resolution that would authorize the determining of the form and sale of the new bonds to refund those bonds issued in 2014.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager. A
Sure.
question on this. Mr. Stafford, is there value just in terms of time for us moving this tonight? Just given that it would be another 2 weeks until we're voting on it.
If you're so inclined, you can certainly do that. I would say, though, that Ms. Rao, had she thought time was of the essence, would have presented this for action. If you're comfortable, please do it. It will take it off our plate for next time, and she can move as of tomorrow. But I dare say that, like I said moments ago, if she thought it was time sensitive, she would have presented it for action. If you're comfortable, please do it.
Okay, I'm just thinking about any time now the Fed raising interest rates, given inflation. So I would like to make a motion to move agenda item 2.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Just noting on the finance committee, in the time period we set these things up, it does lock in our rates and pieces, but just a note. But that said, moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Sure, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes.
On September 22 of 2021, the township opened, read, and analyzed 3 bids for its annual HVAC maintenance and repair services provider contract. Based upon that analysis, recommendation is made to, and this resolution would authorize the award of a contract in an amount not to exceed $120,000 to the lowest responsive bidder, TLP Climate Control Systems of Millstone, New Jersey. This contract would be for 2 years at amounts not to exceed $60,000 per year, with 2 township options to extend the contract, each for 1 year in an amount not to exceed $60,000. Item number 4 would be a resolution authorizing the acquisition of 614 single-space parking meters with 4G, battery, and other necessary upgrades at a cost of $205 per unit from IPS Group of San Diego, California, by and through the New Jersey Parking Cooperative Pricing System. The total amount of the applicable contract would be $125,870. This purchase was discussed by the EDC at its meeting on Thursday, December 9. The EDC recommended same for consideration by the full governing body, and this purchase is in furtherance of the 324 single-space meters upgraded recently by Resolution R-21-264, passed on December 21st of 2021. Item number 5 would be a resolution authorizing the acquisition of 11 4G parking pay stations at a total cost of $83,600, and that would include installation, programming, and shipping from Parkion, doing business as Flowbird of Moorestown, New Jersey, Moorestown, that is. This purchase was also discussed by the Economic Development Committee at its meeting on Thursday, December 9, and the EDC again recommended same for consideration by the full governing body. Item number 6, pursuant to state statute 40A:11-51DD, the provision of goods or services for the support or maintenance of proprietary computer hardware and software is an exception to the bidding requirements of our New Jersey Local Public Contracts Law. When paying for parking at a township meter or pay station, one can use the proprietary Park Mobile application via phone or other applicable device. Item number 6 would be a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Park Mobile of Atlanta, Georgia for a 1-year period. It should be noted that the township collects a 25-cent charge per transaction for the use of the proprietary application and forwards that charge to Park Mobile on a monthly basis. There is no cost to the township for same.
Mayor, Mr. Manager.
Councilman Apels.
I'm just thinking in the interest of time and speed with these as well, just because I know this involves paying for and then shipping things out to California and back and whatnot. If there's no objection, I want to be respectful for colleagues who have not been close to the details here if you need more time, but if there's no objection, I would suggest moving 4, 5, 6, and 7 tonight as well, so we can get these things paid and expedite the repair of the meters and the acquisition of the Flowbird pay stations. Do any of my colleagues object to doing that tonight? Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to move items 4 through 7.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments?
Just a question, Mayor. Now, if we do this as a group, it's all dealing with the parking problem, right? And just trying to explain this again like a teacher. When we get this going, and I agree with doing it tonight, we start to really get this problem resolved, I believe. It's never going to be completely resolved because meters keep breaking down. People sometimes abuse them. They're not as effective because of technology, but it does make us take another step this new year to resolving the problem that has been worked on by our staff, by the parking utility, by Brian Scantlebury, Deputy Manager, and others. So I think it's a good step to do it starting tonight.
Mayor, please do me the service of calling on Mr. Scantlebury to tell you how many meters as of this afternoon were down.
I will, and I'll just speak to, that was going to be my moment of clarification. This is not a beginning of the process. As I noted at the last meeting, when I noted that we were down to under 50 or so meters, and then quickly noted that in a miraculous fashion, we were down to 5 that were not functioning townwide. And Mr. Scantlebury, I don't know if you can break that record or number right now, but I'll wait to see what I hear from you here. But I'll just note all of these items here are at this juncture for redundancy and to provide additional meters and additional pieces to have to maintain this wonderful space that we are in, which is, 50, then 5, then whatever number we're about to hear now of meters. We all do always say, this is a snapshot in time. Somebody could be out there sticking bubble gum in 10 meters as we speak. But, as we sit here, we are down to, Mr. Scantlebury, what are we down to?
As of 4 o'clock, we were down to 0 faulty meters.
Zero.
Zero.
I won't call on you again, Mr. Scantlebury, because you're not going to beat that.
It's bound to go up.
You're not going to beat that number.
Yeah, it's going to, drop the mic.
Exactly.
Bob, like we said, it's a snapshot in time, but we're going to make sure all of the meters are 4G, which should help with the non-reporting, and the coin blockages or whatever, which we're going to try to stay on top of. But right now, it's 0 as of 4 o'clock.
All right. Well, again, as I noted last time, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Scantlebury, give a big, thank you to the crews that have been out there doing that work. I've been in many meetings with you, Mr. Scantlebury. I know you're taking the lead on a lot of this with them to kind of push and prod and ask, and they've done a great job of coming through and getting it done, basically on schedule. And now our role, which we're taking here, is to provide that redundancy. So they've got stock on hand, they've got pay stations where appropriate, and quite frankly, I think people are just more and more getting more and more comfortable with such. And eventually, we'll see where it moves townwide in the future. But at least at this juncture, that is great to hear. 0 as of 4 o'clock. I think we all applaud those efforts. That's
Applaud, actually,
well
yes.
done.
I'll let the guys know.
All right, thanks. All right, we've got a motion to move all items. I've heard no objection. We've got the motion on it. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock.
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes.
Why didn't we include 8 in this?
Well, 4 through 7, we're strictly dealing with the parking meters and kiosks.
Yeah. Well, okay.
8's for the official
But
news.
you certainly can if you'd like to move it. I mean, I can tell you about it if you'd like to hear it. It's the annual, it's a pro forma resolution that the clerk puts before you to designate the 2 official newspapers. I would embrace a motion and a second to pass it tonight. To your point, sir.
Well, Mr. Stafford, we certainly can, although I will speak for and Councilman Russo, you did it apparently way earlier in the meeting a number of times, asking questions for the benefit of the public. I will speak for the kid who doesn't want to raise their hand necessarily. The whole point we do discussion items is to give the public a chance to look over the items we are considering for another meeting, and to have colleagues look over the items we are considering for the meeting. As much as I love to jump and do them as well, that is the purpose, is to allow Joe Public or anyone at home to review these things, see what we're talking about. So there is not the, hey, we didn't know that was going on. And also for us who may come up with a question, between the couple days that we always have to look at things initially and then the next month. Again, if there's something that rises to level, yes. But we'll note that there is a reason why, councils all throughout the state have a conference meeting and a regular meeting and go over these items, to review. That said, if there's a burning desire, I don't think there would be too many questions, Mr. Stafford, given, despite my whole speech there of the newspaper of record. That's not the one, that's not the hill I'm noting and died on, but just noting in general, just to be mindful of the purpose, and that there are others out there who want to review these things and look at these things and hear about them more than once. But that said, Mr. Stafford, I'll let you read it, and if anyone wants to move it, so be it.
So number 8, sir.
Please.
Okay. Item 8 would be a resolution 2 consistent with NJSA 40:53-1 and is required by NJSA 10:4-6. Designate official newspapers for all advertisements and notices required by law to be published by the township and to receive notice of its meetings.
I think with Tim's enthusiastic support, I'd like to move this item resolution
I think the clerk would agree with it too. Just get this.
Happy to second that one also.
Imagine she's the one. It's moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilman Russo.
The same question I asked a few years ago when we had a new newspaper in town. And just for the public, again, I'm doing this because I may know the answer, but I'd like the public to know. People might ask if you can do two newspapers and you have to do two, why don't you do the Montclair Times and the Montclair Local? But if the clerk or someone or the manager can explain why it has to be these two rather than the new newspaper, which has a pretty heavy circulation in town, people are reading it. I had suggested it be the two local papers a couple of years ago, and it was explained to me. So clerk and manager, can you explain why these two? Out of the three that we could, or maybe we can't.
If I may, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, why don't you talk about the circulation, the print date and why, et cetera.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. As far as I understand, there are some statutory requirements for the newspaper designations, and these two meet those statutory requirements. In addition, the Star Ledger is a daily, so sometimes I need to publish for the public hearings in a short period of time, so I need a daily paper. Does that answer your question, sir?
Well, it does in the sense that you can't eliminate the ledger, so you have to do that. As to the other two, I think there was a question that someone answered in the past that satisfied me, but I still would like to hear, why we choose the Montclair Times rather than Montclair Local. I think they're both good papers, but is there a reason for that?
I'm not sure, sir, if the Montclair Local meets the statutory requirements to be designated as an official newspaper of the municipality. But of course, I would defer to the township attorney.
I think that's the answer, what those requirements are and why it doesn't meet it. I'm not going to get into, but I just thought that it would be good for the clerk to explain. So maybe
Well,
the manager. Or
as this is evolving, maybe this sounds like one that a councilman might want to look into between now and the next meeting, where we have these things on twice to get the clear answer to explain to the public. Otherwise, we're all going to be searching for answers or asking our attorney on the spot to find something out. But
It's real simple. Montclair Local's a nonprofit. It's not an official newspaper. And I think I asked Mr. Russo, he could have explained that because he's known the answer for what, 20 years you've been on the council, Bob?
No, David, it's not that I knew that answer. Also, the newspaper's been around only a few years. I asked it when the paper first came out. It seems to make sense to me that it's a nonprofit, but I don't think it started as a nonprofit. So when it started, it was not a nonprofit, but I think the clerk's answer is a general answer, which if anybody has any questions, they can find out more from our attorney, but I'd say move it tonight then. I'm not against getting it done. I just wanted to discuss it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's moved and seconded, and this is the discussion. If anyone has any other questions, concerns, comments. Hearing none, voice vote, all in favor, non-financial, I believe. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. Mr. Stafford.
Lastly, Mayor, item 9 is a resolution in support of the establishment of a permanent skate park put forth by Councilors Iacobellis and Schleyer.
And if I could speak to that.
Sure, Councilman Iacobellis.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And Councilor Slager, is it okay with you if I speak to a few points?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So just to distill the resolution down to the 4 things that it does. So 1, it will initiate an analysis of insurance costs and implications for the township with Garden State Municipal Joint Insurance Fund for the proposed site at Rand Park. 2, it will direct the township to include construction and maintenance of a skate park at Rand Park in the plans for development of new or repurposed recreational facilities in town and in capital budget planning for consideration. 3, it would direct the township manager and such staff as he so chooses to collaborate with Skate Essex and/or other TBD third parties to begin to work through financing, development, operation, and maintenance planning for a permanent skate park at Rand Park. And 4, contingent on a favorable outcome from the insurance review, it would close the remaining 2 tennis courts at Rand Park and then allow Skate Essex and US Olympian Alexis Sablone to construct professional skate fixtures to be placed on those 2 courts while the other park remains open for skating. Skate Essex has raised all of the funds necessary for this work, and the engineers are available to do the work beginning in March, and there is no cost to the township. Some other just data points I want to add. With the closure of those 2 courts, that would leave Montclair Township with 14 courts. There are an additional 10 county courts within the town limits. So it's 24 tennis courts within the town limits of Montclair. And that's, of course, not including the various private facilities around Montclair, in particular, Bradford Tennis and Bath, the Montclair Golf Club, the Glen Ridge Country Club, which of course are all paid for. And I understand the difference between those things, but 24 tennis courts within the town limits of Montclair. And then from a design perspective and just from a timeline perspective, this is what this resolution is about. It's about getting the ball rolling. This is not about ultimately what the design is going to be, what the features are going to be. It's not about the question of whether or not there's going to be basketball or tennis or pickleball. It's not about sound barriers or any of that yet. That's all to come in terms of ideating on what a design concept would look like, what the funding model ultimately is going to be. I know, Mayor, you've talked about, and I would agree with you on this, a third of grants, private fundraising, and township contribution. So all those things are to come. And to some of the callers' concerns earlier, one big open question that this governing body will have a decision on is, with space that's available there, with most of the concepts we're looking at, we can decide to do additional basketball, so doubling the basketball capacity on that site, pickleball, or actually keep tennis courts. So you would keep a tennis court on that site as well. So most of the designs that we've seen, early concepts, of course, would allow for the full-size skate park and then still keep the basketball that's there and allow for an additional court of some kind, again, whether that be tennis, pickleball, or basketball. And the reason for that is because you have handball courts that are really unused there. You've got a playground that's pretty dilapidated. There's additional space around there. And the parking lot would be designed with angled spots to accommodate the same level of parking, but using less space. But again, all of those things, all of those decisions are part of the process here. This resolution would not address any of those things. We'd all have our time and our ability to input ultimately on what a skate park at Rand Park would look like. This resolution is specifically for those 4 things I mentioned. The one, that sticks out, I think, being that it would close, again, upon a favorable outcome from an insurance review, it would close the 2 remaining tennis courts at Rand Park so that the Olympian design structures could be constructed while the other court remains open. So I wanted to put this out there and see if Councilor Schlager wanted to add anything and see what questions my colleagues might have.
Yes. I would like to add a couple of things if I may. Thank you,
Sure.
Mayor and Councilman Yacobelis. I would like to add that in addition to those, to the courts that we were talking about, the tennis courts, at Brookdale Park, there are 11 tennis courts. And according to their website, the Brookdale Park website at Essex County, they refer to it as a tennis center. There's plenty of parking there and there's plenty of tennis courts there. I also want to remind everybody that Montclair High School, their varsity and junior varsity boys and girls tennis teams play at Mountainside Park. And also the township offers tennis lessons at Nishawayne and Mountainside Park. So the Rand Park tennis courts do not, the high school and the lessons don't take place there. I also want to add that Montclair Kimberly Academy has, I think there's 6 courts at their Valley Road campus. They have generously over many years given the code to the surrounding neighbors in and around those tennis courts. And the neighbors use those courts regularly. I know I live not that far from there, so I know this firsthand. And the Montclair Kimberly has been very generous in that regard. I also would like to say that, similar to what Mr. Iacobello said, this is a chance to reimagine that whole area. It's not just about a skate park. It's also perhaps pickleball, which is a huge a new sport that many people play. I don't play it. I don't know how to play it, but I do know that pickleball, the little that I do know, it takes up a smaller space than a full-size tennis court. So perhaps we can have 1 or 2 pickleball courts there. And also the basketball courts there are very, very popular. Would be my hope in the reimagination of the park is to expand the basketball courts there and perhaps get some bathroom facilities that are open and running there as well. Many years ago, Deputy Mayor Herlock and I tried to get this basketball program in that little playground area that Mrs. Christmas also talked about. It was called Bank Shot Basketball. It was a basketball program for the younger set and also had a special needs component to it. We tried really hard. Nutley has the Bank Shot Basketball playground, and we tried really hard to do that, and we were not able to do it because of funding. So maybe we could even revisit that at some point as well. So I also wanted to add the parking there it would be my hope, and I would make sure that the parking never changes at Rand Park, at the courts. That parking lot is used for the Renaissance at Rand Middle School for the staff. It's imperative that that parking lot stay there for that purpose. You know, in the summer months, the lot is empty because there's no staff there. And also the staff leaves at 2 or 3 o'clock. So the parking lot becomes empty again. So there is plenty of parking there as well. So I just wanted to add all that in case anybody had those questions. Thank you.
I'll just
Mayor?
note, Councilman Iacobello, you noted before, been on a couple of those meetings, as you note, together where we, I think, all had to smile where we've heard that the funding, yes, could be maybe third, or they've noted it could be 100% funded.
Yeah.
Or 0%. I think you're right. I think we all had a good laugh on that one for a moment. But in all reality, look, you know, the goal is obviously to try and get you know, as much resources as possible to help, especially during these difficult financial times. But there are some significant opportunities for funding, at least from what, and I know you guys would concur, I would believe from the conversations I've had and you've been on. You know, there does seem to be some funding opportunities certainly that can get jump started and people bring in dollars. So that's important as we, you know, want to provide for all of our callers tonight who called in for it, who did a great job, but also in addition to those, you know, those using it, you know, we got to be mindful of fiscal stewards, and you know, it looks like there's some opportunities there to do it in a smart way if done right. So certainly good news there too. Councilman Russo, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Just a couple of things to get clarified for me, because I read the resolution very clearly. There's a lot of insurance issues we want to get clarified and get this moving. I want to make sure there's always some presence of tennis there. I know we've got tennis courts all over the place, but some people might still want to do some tennis there, and I've been assured that that will still be a possibility. And then basketball. I don't want to see elimination of basketball there. And I've been assured, and you could reassure me, Councilor Schlager, again, that there'll be some basketball available. I'd like to say that, you know, I've worked with Councilor Schlager for many, many years. She and I are the longest serving council members. But I know Peter's come along and been very active with this. But when Robin says, let's do this, I follow that because she's been so involved. I want to give her accolades tonight because I haven't been as involved. But back when I was mayor 20 years ago, Mayor Remsen, who I just talked to recently, Mayor Remsen was a real advocate of this while he was on the council, and I became a supporter of it. We just never got it done then. 20 years has gone by. And I don't want to see our students, our young people who've been pushing for this, some of whom are not even 20, at this point, wait another minute for us to get moving on it. So I'd like to suggest, I have most of my questions answered. I know, and I want reassurance that Michelle from Recreation will be involved. I think we should just get this done and get it moving tonight because it's not locking us into anything. It does even say at one point that the township will explore if there's an overall more suitable location is found. So we're not closing the door to something else if we find something better, and we're not locking ourselves into any specific amount of resources. So I do support this with those qualifications, again, of basketball and input from our recreation department, which would know whether we need tennis or anything else. Thank you, Mayor.
Sir?
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, well, Peter and Robin, you both know I shared my concerns with you guys. I think the resolution as written, I don't have an issue with it other than the elimination of 2 tennis courts. But my major concern is that in conversations with the recreation director, I think she really needs to be brought into this because she can provide the I would guess the context of when we get into what the tennis community and how often they are. I mean, she sent me an email that last year she issued over 2,000 tennis permits. I can't equate what that means in terms of who plays where, but again, I'm not in favor of eliminating the 2 tennis courts until we get something from our own personnel, our own staff, of how they feel about it. I know she indicated she wished you could add a basketball court. I think the basketball court there is used quite a bit, but I'm hesitant to eliminate something without the tennis community being engaged and really without our recreation department leading this charge. And I've expressed that to both of you. So that's where I'm at right now. And at the end of the day, also, no one has given us a cost yet. And although you said the mayor and guys agreed a third, and a third, I don't know what a third is. And I think, the exploration of what you're requiring to see what the insurance is and things like that. As I said, I think the resolution seems to appear, but I do disagree with Mr. Russo in that we should move this tonight. I think there should be some discussion. I think we need to get recreation involved, get Michelle to give her points of view. And it's ironic, Councilor Price Abrams and I were going through the commissions and committees over the weekend. And yes, we did work over the holiday. And one of the things we found that there's a youth advisory board that's pretty much been defunct. But again, what does the youth think? And I think that is something that should really fall under the Recreation Advisory Committee. They should have some input into this. And this isn't a stalling, but I think there should be robust discussion because this is a major change. And the final thing is, again, with all things that I think I've been pretty consistent, the immediate residents, because they are the ones who have to live with this. And not to say they're against. I mean, I'm glad Miss Christmas called in tonight to express that she thinks the little park area is great. But I think indulging those residents to discuss it. I've had a couple of residents who live there who sent in and said they were supportive of this. But I think, again, I'm in the process of, well, one of the things we're in the process in the 4th Ward, Mr. Scannell can tell you, is replacing a cement wall on Marston Place. First thing I did was reach out to folks on Marston and Willowdale. Hey, what do you think about this? And the responses were very varied. And so I think it's on all of us to think about the residents in the area first. And that's one of the reasons that I think we should have discussion about this item. The private-public partnership and grants sounds great. I know the Skate Essex folks have been out there hard. I am not against the skate park. I think what we have is something that's been a temporary. We did a resolution last year, and I think what you're doing, I think what we're doing now is adding some teeth to it to actually get the ball rolling. I agree with that because we said we were supportive of this. But I also think the recreation department should actually be leading this on our behalf. And it seems like based on my conversations with Michelle, she hasn't really been a part of these discussions. That's her words, not mine. And that's concerning to me. But also, I go back to what I've expressed to you guys, which is talk to the residents who are going to be impacted the most, kind of come up with what does our recreation department feel, because they know who the tennis community is. And I think that's very important. And then when we get to the part about, yes, they have a bunch of tennis courts and throughout town, we do. But we're not responsible for Brookdale, and we're not responsible for Glenfield. So and those courts are available. But again, I don't want to get us into a position where we are speaking for something that we have no control over. Because there's those parks, that equipment can be broken, and it's not up to us to fix it. We don't know when it'll get back on board. And the conversation of pickleball, that threw me, Robin, because I have a very good friend who loves pickleball, and he goes to Brookdale almost every day and playing it. So again, that goes to what does that structure look like? I mean, when we look at this piece of property, along with when does this start? Does it impact the schools? Buses are coming in and out of there to drop kids off and take them to school. And I'm sure there's been some discussion about that, but there's a lot here to unpack. And I don't think moving this ordinance tonight makes any sense, especially when there should be some discussion with the community as well as all the stakeholders involved. So that's kind of like what I have to say right now. But I really, really hope you guys can get Michelle involved and the recreation department sooner than later.
Yes, I would just say the third or actually fourth be it resolves is where we specifically do that. Be it resolved further that the council authorizes the manager and such staff as the manager directs to collaborate with Skate Essex and or similar organizations and or third parties yet to be determined, blah, 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 to work on this.
Right. I guess my point was we passed a resolution last year, and that should have been in place already. And now we got 2 weeks. That's one point. It's not, I know like I said, I think the ordinance makes sense, and I'm supportive of it almost 90%. I just think that right now we need to allow Michelle and Parks and Recreation to really get to some of the points. We've had callers call in saying we have enough tennis courts, but I don't know how many tennis courts or how many people in the tennis community and where they feel, because I feel like they haven't been engaged as much as Skate Essex. It's clear Skate Essex has done a remarkable job and they're passionate about this. And until we can kind of really facilitate what it means from the township in terms of, either this is going to be something that Parks and Recreation will have to oversee. It's going to come under them. And so I feel like they should have some input as well as be a part of the discussion with you guys, especially since they haven't been to what I guess from my expectation is what they should have been. But so that's all. I sort of push back on your point. I get that we are now putting it in their ballpark. I just feel like let's give them a chance to really get into it and have a real say.
So just one
Haven't they
more.
been involved? I think there's a conflict of interpretation.
Make sure everybody gets to answer going around, so it's not a whatever. I see that, Councilman, raise your hand if you've got something you'd like to say, and I'll tag them and go around. So, Councilman Russo, let's go there.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get this clarified, Mayor. Is and she's not here to ask this, but this is silly because I assume she's been involved, and I've been hearing from other councilors that she's been involved, and there's so many years that this has been discussed. I can't believe recreation hasn't been involved as much. So, and I'd like to see then maybe the resolution should specifically state not just who the manager designates, nothing taking away from you, Tim, but states recreation. If we could change that phrase to including or, especially recreation. So that department is specifically listed.
Okay.
Who?
Mayor, you're muted.
I see Councilwoman Schlager's hand, and then Jacobellis with also Councilwoman Schlager, then Councilman Jacobellis, and if anybody else, just raise your hand, and I'll jot you down and put you in the queue. Councilwoman Schlager.
Well, with all due respect, nor from what, none of us are really supposed to give any direction to the recreation department. That all comes through the manager. So, yes, of course, we want recreation to be involved, and they're the experts, and it's their department. They have to oversee whatever happens in our recreation world. But I can't call Michelle up and ask her to come to a meeting. I can't call Michelle up and ask her to read the resolution. I can't do that. So, and I trust Mr. Stafford, will do that. And that's what it says here in this resolution.
I would just add that, we have in the EDC meetings, Michelle's been present when we've had the conversations about the skate park, and in the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee, there's almost always a report on what's happening at Ram Park and the thinking behind that. And she's also there. So my concern is that I think sometimes we create different standards for different resolutions or ordinances, depending on who's supporting them or what the topic is. So I want to make sure that, that's not the case here. I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but at this point, I'd like to make a motion to move this resolution tonight.
I see Council, I heard you ask a question and then make a motion, but the question was, does anyone else have a question? That was, I saw a hand go up with the Deputy Mayor. I will note, just for the record, there is only one standard. That standard is if there's 4 votes. That's the standard. So let me be clear on it. So there's no perception that there's different standards. 1. Deputy Mayor, please. And then I have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You took one of my points, so well said. I couldn't have articulated my concerns, comments, and questions, and I really hope we get away from this, putting something on a conference meeting schedule and then voting on it that night. That's not the way we've done things in the past. To Councilman Cummings' point, some of us would like some time to look at some of this stuff. And I couldn't have said anything better than what Councilor Cummings said. David, thank you. I couldn't agree any more with what you said in the process that we're just not following anymore. I would also add that we've had several groups approach us, including the seniors, about senior center and other groups in town with an ask. And we've politely told them no, because we're in the middle of a pandemic and we don't really have the money right now. I mean, our parking revenues are down over 70% and we're going into year 2 in March. So financially, I would caution us when we're doing these types of projects. I heard no cost to the town, then I heard a third. These are questions I'd like to have fleshed out, not in a 10-minute discussion online at a council meeting. That's just my 2 cents. So I have some concerns about this as well. As David said, though, as Councilor Cummings said, and I have a great deal of respect for him, I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm not against this, so I don't want to get a flurry of calls and emails. But I would like to have some time. This is a big step here, okay? We're adding something permanently here. We've got other groups with questions. All this information is coming out. I appreciate the zeal. I really applaud everyone who called in tonight, especially our younger Montclairians. Well done. I don't know if I could have done that when I was your age, quite frankly, but I thought you did a good job of putting your points across. But I mean, come on now. We had, I don't know how many discussion items tonight, and we're removing all of them. Does this mean, Mr. Mayor, by the way, that we can adjourn the meeting that we have scheduled on the 18th, since we got through our work schedule? I'd like to make a motion to do that if someone will second that. That's where I am on that. I don't really have much more to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Well, I heard a motion. I did hear him ask a question. If anyone had any questions first, so I'll entertain that if there's a question. Seeing none, there's a motion to move this. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any official questions, concerns, comments, as we do for all? Okay, I think I'll note, also add my voice to the, I think this is a a good resolution. I think it's well worded. I do think. I think it does not commit us financially, as I've noted in the calls I've been on. Whatever those dollars amount are, I think way back when noted, hey, what's a fair amount on a project that was at the time noted for $1 million was maybe third, depending on what comes in. Noted every step of the way that if we can get full funding of it, that's better. And I know that Councilman Yacobelis and Councilman Schlager can attest to that. I've said that directly on the calls with everybody involved in the skate park, that if we can get it to 100% funded outside from the township, that is the option that is preferable 100%, right? But that said, I think this does that line of offering support, but also not committing, whatever that looks like, as we don't know, right? To my other councilman men's point in this case, that we don't know what that number is. We can't commit to that. We don't know what a number is. So I agree with that too. But I think this ordinance does cover that. It's not a commitment to that. I think it's good. I will just note, I'm 100% in support of this ordinance as is, but I will note, I've said it not just on this item, I've said it not just in this meeting, but I do think that ones that have an impact in the big scheme of things, time between one meeting and another, yes, we do that on occasion, and yes, whatever, and I'll be the first one to do it if we got 4 votes to do it. But I will note generally, not just to this, I've said it for other issues and other things, we do add them on for a conference discussion so that people can look at them, think about them, hear from constituents, talk to people, have them look at it, and then move it. So just a note on that front, and I'll say it again here. So I do generally agree with that principle, although it doesn't mean there aren't things that don't rise to the level of moving it. So I'll give that nod. With that, any other questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
No.
Counselor Price Abrams,
I'm going to comment as I say no right now. I am very much supportive. I respect process, and in that sense, we'll give people 2 more weeks to digest it and ask the questions they need to ask. I agree with what the mayor just said, which is that as drafted, this is very, in a sense, preliminary, and it is not it's not impacting town budgets at this time. It's setting up feasibility. So in a sense, I would endorse it tonight, but out of respect for process, I'm actually going to vote no at this time. But I do hope that we will come together and support it all next time.
thank you. Counselor Russo,
I'm voting yes, along with Counselor Robin Schlager, who's the expert and 15 years of work on this. Thank you.
Counselor Schlager,
Thank you for the compliment, Bob, but yes, I vote yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Point of order, Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm going to request that we pull this and postpone and have the vote be on the 18th.
Okay, I was thinking about interjecting, but didn't want to look like I was, tipping anything, but saying, is there any objection to, we've asked this before, if there was somebody with a strong opinion on it, so we don't have to be in a divided thing that it sounds like most people agree on. I'm hearing the maker without objection, and so I'll go to the seconder, Councilwoman Schlager. That's you getting the mad accolades from Councilman Russo. You're now the seconder who's being asked, do you have objection to tabling until the next meeting, or putting back on leaving for the next meeting?
Well, I guess so.
Well, you could remove it if you want to move it yourself, but I know that the person who moved it has asked that we table, so I'm just asking if you object to.
Well, no, well, that's fine. It's fine. We can change it.
Yeah, your call. You don't have to. But
Oh,
okay.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so Councilman Yacobelis, I haven't heard objection to your request to table. So we will table it. Is there any other objection to tabling?
No objection, Mr. Mayor, but I would like to thank Councilman Yacobelis for his willingness to move it to the next meeting. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome, and I really mean this. Like, I don't want to set anybody up to be on the opposing side of something that you might be supportive of if you just need a little bit more time. And I don't want the kids to hear that. I don't want the papers to report that and write that and put people on the wrong side of things that they're not on the wrong side of. So we'll talk about it on the 18th.
Without
just-
objection, we've tabled. So yep, we've good start of a discussion then, and good tabling, and we'll move forward with that. At the next meeting, it will be on the agenda for consideration.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Yeah, sure. Mhm.
For Mr. Stafford, if this passes on the 18th, how long does it take to get the Garden State Insurance Fund up and running to do their analysis of the site? Because my concern is, that I think the availability of the contractors and the Olympian doing the design work is in March, and I just want to make sure that we're, not cutting it too close to when they're available.
I don't know what their time frame will be. If it passes on the 18th, I will have it sent on the 19th through our risk manager, and I'm confident they'll work expeditiously. They are very efficient, although like everyone else in the nation and certainly in this region, they are severely slowed down by the pandemic and its conditions. But I do have confidence in their general efficiency.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, seeing no other here on mine, covered this. Yep, seeing no other items. Go around the horn here. First off, let's start with our township manager.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further tonight beyond what I've already said.
Okay. Mr. Deputy Manager, I'm not even gonna call on you because 0 non-functioning meters is a mic drop. So, you're excluded from further comment this meeting. So,
I'll accept that.
Yeah. Okay. In all seriousness, Mr. Scanlon, anything?
No reports, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. We really appreciate the fact and certainly pleased to see him on. Thank you, Mr. Town Attorney, Mr. Burr, and also our Assistant Town Attorney for both being on tonight. So thank you both. I'll start with you, Mr. Burr, Township Attorney. Anything?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I want to thank publicly yourself and the council for the opportunity to serve the residents of Montclair as the interim township attorney. I look forward to working with all of you and all the municipal employees and making things much better. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome there. Assistant Town Attorney?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I appreciate the consistency of your comments at these meetings. Yes. Moving forward, Madam Clerk, anything?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report.
Okay, great. There we go. Let's go with Councilman Yacobelis today.
Well, thanks, Mayor.
I can't remember I can't remember when I started the last one, so I'm guessing on this one. But go ahead.
With a name like Yacobelis, I'm used to being last for everything. Look, I think you'll probably reiterate these points as well. Obviously, we're really concerned with what's going on with COVID. There's sort of reasons to be concerned, but also reasons to be hopeful. The lagging indicators in terms of both hospitalization and death aren't at the sort of alarming rates that we saw with the Delta variant or with the origin virus. So that's somewhat encouraging, as is the new treatment therapies that are available through Merck and Pfizer in terms of the pills that you can take to avoid hospitalization. So, I am not a scientist or a medical expert, but I read a whole lot, and what we're seeing is, I think, the wisdom is that we'll see the spike and the leveling off by the middle of this month, essentially following 2 weeks after people were gathered for the holiday season, and we'll know where we're at that point. But I just think in general, people should feel hopeful, be careful. There's no reason to take anything for granted. And certainly people who are vulnerable to the symptoms of this disease have to be particularly careful, even if you are vaccinated. But just in terms of the population overall, I think, there's a lot of reason to be hopeful that, a lot of the restrictions, like the mask mandate and things like we've done and that the state does or has done, is only temporary. I do think, the spring is going to be a brighter time. And I just think with the increased testing capacity, the pill treatment, and the more importantly, the additional opening up of the booster availability to young adults over the next couple of weeks is going to be a big deal and a game changer for Montclair, Essex County, and New Jersey. So I just want people to feel hopeful. I know it's really hard when it's dark and it's cold and everything's being canceled and we're quarantining again to feel despair. But I feel good about what the future holds if we can just get through a couple difficult weeks together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Russo?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just want to wish everyone again a happy new year. We had, during the time we were not together, we had Kwanzaa and we celebrated those 7 days. We had Christmas, Kwanzaa, and now New Year's. I think we're coming up on Dr. Martin Luther King's breakfast, not breakfast, but his birthday, which we used to have a breakfast. Now I haven't heard anything, and I just wanted to know if anyone else had heard anything, because Dr. Davis, who we just put to rest, and Dr. Davis was the MC of those breakfasts, the scholarship breakfasts. It was a wonderful event that he always spoke at, and he always acknowledged all of us, and everyone came together. So I just hope something's going to be done for Dr. King, who was a great leader. And the other thing I wanted to say, people heard me refer to my cousin who grew up in Newark with me, a few blocks away, was my mother's only sister out of 10 children, my mother's only sister's son, a little older than me, but passed away after working so hard for his son, who was 52 when he passed, who was autistic and had the care of the Search School in Monmouth County. Search School is a place that my cousin Joe Tishio from Nutley, actually, first Newark, then Bloomfield, then Nutley, but he was the vice president of the Search School. So I just want to make an appeal to people. Our People with Disabilities Committee deals with these issues on a regular basis. They're a great advisory committee, and I work with them as a liaison. And, the autism issue comes up often. I had the misfortune, but it was an education for me that my cousin's son, Tommy, lived 52 years, and he was taken care of in a group home, and he was also taken care of by the Search School in Monmouth. So if anybody can make any donations, the funeral today was dedicated to him and dedicated to his, raising money for Search. It's Search School, Monmouth County. And anyone who wants any more information, get a hold of me. We really have to take care of those who need help among us. And I hope that we can get the resolution. So many people still calling in about the rent issues. I hope we can resolve that. We've got a good committee. We could get some names to continue that committee, landlord tenant, but that we can get rent control resolved so we can finally put in place that we have a limit on rent increases. We have, if it's 4% or whatever, and that we have landlords and tenants coming to an agreement. I know the mayor's been working on this. I've been working on it. Councilor Price Abrams, who has so many tenants in the third ward, has been working on it. So has Councilor Schlager and Cummings, and everyone's been trying to help get this done. But we're near to getting some kind of agreement among tenants and landlords. Not that the town imposes, not that we make the agreement, but that they come to an agreement that we can maybe put to rest the need for lawsuits, for legal conflicts, for costs, delays, and maybe not have, a referendum which is divisive. We've just been through one referendum. We don't need another one now. So I'm praying and hoping that everybody works together so we have an affordable town. We can keep tenants who are many senior tenants and young couples and young people and single, moms that are struggling to keep an apartment. We get tenants and landlords to agree to something that can be put in place so that tenants can feel, and those who are looking at the affordability issue can feel we've done something, which we tried to do a year and a half ago, but it's been stymied by lawsuits. We have done something in this new year, 2022. The last thing I want to say is a year ago, something very tragic happened in Washington. And I don't have to say anything, just as Mr. Rennie called in and said, don't comment because I've said enough. But I'm just going to say once again, do not let this country that we have had for 250 years, and I've taught this for 50 years in school, both in elementary, high school, and college, do not let this country fall into what someone wrote an article, which I've sent out to people, a Mussolini moment. And this is, something that's really, really educational. 100 years ago, Italy began to fight over the election of someone who became a dictator in a few short years, a dictator. And we don't need to have anything like that now. So I'm just going to say one more time, let's all work together, Republicans and Democrats, independents, anyone who really loves this country. Do not let us fall back. You know, I started under President Kennedy. It was such a hopeful time. In January 1961, in the snowstorm, we had an inauguration where he meant so much to me and so many other young people who were just teenagers then. And that light of President Kennedy is what I follow. But I also follow Teddy Roosevelt. And Teddy Roosevelt was a great Republican president. And my father loved Dwight Eisenhower, Ike. And my wife liked Ronald Reagan. And I think that we have so much, you know, from the time of Lincoln through now. I think Liz Cheney is a great, courageous woman. And I think that the Democrats and Republicans with a common interest in this country's future should join together and pray that this never happens again, what happened a year ago. Never happens again. We cannot. My cousins today who talked to me at the funeral of my cousin, they were all saying they fear that the future of the United States, they all grew up during the Kennedy time in the 60s. They all fear the United States is tumbling towards conflict and violence. And that's what happened in Italy, you know, and then we had a dictator. So let's not have that happen here. Sorry, Mayor, I had just to say that. I'm an educator in history and poli-sci, and I just had to say it. I hope Republicans and Democrats, independents all work together for the United States. I always carried the flag around when I was a kid. I marched around my neighborhood in Newark. I loved President Kennedy, and I also loved this country. I carried the flag, was pledged to that flag. I pledged my allegiance to this country. I want to see everyone work together, and I just want everyone to put aside conflicts and hatred and talk to each other and try to come to a common love of America and never let a January 6th incident like that happen again. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We'll just note one of the things that you said early on. I want to highlight that you noted that the Montclair Martin Luther King Scholarship Breakfast, which we've traditionally had in person, and as you know, Dr. Davis had done such a wonderful job at, but also certainly we had to go virtual last year for that. It will occur this year again. I think you had noted this, Councilman, or asked about it. It will occur this year. It is happening. It's virtual. So anyone interested, you'll be able to sign up for the virtual program on that Monday and participate and watch it and see. I think they're working to get a number of students back who received the scholarship to do video introductions or to speak. I'm sure the format is still being worked on. Rick, who helps facilitate these meetings, I know is playing a key role in putting that all together. So please, watch TV 34 or go online, and you will be able to still tune in for the scholarship breakfast. And as always, we encourage everyone to contribute. And certainly a big thank you to President Stanley White and all the trustees who do great work to make sure that there are dollars there for the students who receive those scholarships. So if you're able to give, please do so as well. But just wanted to note that, I believe Councilman noted, if that would be happening there. So it will be. With that, let's move to, let's go first. So Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Just a couple of things real quick. I won't be that long. Just want to welcome my fellow member of the bar, Mr. Burr, to our meetings. I look forward to working with you, sir. Glad that you're here. Do you have any questions, anything we can help out?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. You as well, to you and your family. Just to throw in a couple of other things here too, real quick. I have also been working on landlord-tenant issues over the many years that I've been serving, going into my 10th as well. So that's an important issue to me, as it is to many of us. And I want to thank Mr. Stafford, Mr. Germano, Mr. Scantleberry, Mr. Obzarni. Well done with the parking meter issue. Seriously, well done. 0. I don't remember if we've ever reached 0. I certainly not in my tenure. Thank you for working so diligently and so hard on that as well. And just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. Hopefully we're, coming through this pandemic. I know the numbers are up. Just be vigilant if you can. I actually went last Wednesday and got my COVID booster up at the Kmart Center there in West Orange. My hat's off again to the county executive who's done an exceptional job in organizing that and getting so many people through so efficiently. I mean, I was in and out 20 minutes tops. So highly recommend those of you that are interested in doing that. I suggest all of us try to get there if we can. Also, real quick question for Mr. Stafford, not to put you on the spot, Tim, but just following up, I know we had voted last time on a contract for the ambulance, the first aid building there. Where are we in that process? If someone could help me with that.
I think, sir, that was an ordinance that was introduced.
Okay.
I think that's going to be scheduled, or probably has been scheduled, for a second reading and public hearing. I don't know. I'll say the same thing you just did, Ms. Bermudez-Nieves. Do you know off the top of your head when that public hearing will be?
Yes, it's scheduled for the 18th.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you. And at that point, we would have a
20
second reading?
Second reading, public hearing on the 18th, assuming passage 20 days hence, we would be able to send the agreement to the ambulance unit for signatures.
Okay, and I'll check with my colleagues because I just want to check on the status, Mr. Stafford. May ask for a waiver of those 20 days only because I know that they have a time-sensitive issue. They're trying to obtain some financing for a much-needed repair. So I think time is of the essence. And obviously, I asked my colleagues at the appropriate time for that 20-day waiver, but that's just to put it on everyone's schedule since this is a conference meeting. It's not a full meeting. Thank you.
So if that's desired, I would just ask that you let me know so that the law department can with a little bit of notice, draft the appropriate but required resolution declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I will make sure I get back to you forthwith, as they say in the law. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for the time. Greatly appreciate it. Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think Councilwoman Schlager we may have lost her. So we will go to 3rd Ward and Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to extend again, as others, a Happy New Year. I know we all wish we were in a slightly different place for the new year than what COVID has dealt us. But as others have noted, we have both the facilities available through Kmart with the counties, very efficient system, as well as other places in town where you can get your booster and testing and all of that. So I think, we talked about it last time. I appreciate Mr. Stafford had chased down some of that information and shared that. We made sure the town put it out for folks, and, everyone just doing what they can to get us, over that curve, that it could be both a happy and a healthy new year for folks. And as we've spoken about Dr. King Day, the other thing I've always tried to do, COVID's thrown a wrench, is sort of a day on, as that's another way of honoring Dr. King's memory. So I have to say, I need to pull together, and anybody who has ideas, I think it would be great for us to post on the website, or I will certainly send it out through my channels, what opportunities there may be for volunteerism on that day, again, to fulfill on the legacy of Dr. King. So I'm going to publicly commit to doing that. So we can help direct people if there are opportunities. I don't know, again, with COVID, if some of those things have been curtailed. Honestly, that's kind of it. I appreciate having had some opportunity to engage at other points in the meeting. So see the rest of my time and look forward to working together on these issues soon.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Although I'll note that each of us has unlimited time, so when you're seeing that, it could be a long time you're offering
It's
up.
very generous of me to see the rest of my time here.
So, looks like I see our Deputy Mayor smiling because I've seen that move before, sir. Yes. Let's go to Councilman Cummings, please.
Mayor, thank you very much. I really do think that the MLK breakfast is something should make sure to continue to support. One of the things that scholarship I appreciate is it's $1,000 for every year. It's not just 1,001 years for 4 years. And I know Mr. White, and then, brother to brother also does a good job at the Pancrake. So that I'm glad that we all gave them some shout out tonight. And I want to thank Councilor Price Abrams. We spent 2 or 3 days over the holiday break working on, the committee and commission paperwork that we've talked about. And, it was, Lori made me get up at 8:30 in the morning twice, even on New Year's Eve. But, I think the work that we're doing will be very beneficial. And once we get it to you all, I hope that you see that I think it could really make a difference what we want to do. Mr. Burr, welcome. Good luck. You got an easy night tonight, but I think you're primed, and look forward to working with you. And then finally, I want to acknowledge the death of Howard Finney. I say this quite a bit, or I've said this quite a bit. 2021 was really tough. Mr. Pelham leaving us, and now Mr. Finney. If you didn't know Mr. Finney started the Cobras football program. And for any kid my age, not Mr. Scantleberry's age, the Cobra football program was your beginning into Montclair football. And the relationships that were built. I made the correlation to Mr. Holland's Opus, and that, if you saw that movie, Mr. Finney touched many people. And his death is, if you go on Facebook, everyone is really acknowledging him. And so what I would say is it was also a testament to the game of football. You meet people, you learn teamwork. And for me, one of the things that stood out when Mr. Finney passed away was the exposure that he gave myself and others, meaning that every year we did a trip to Florida, and we stayed with an opposing team's players for, each player stayed with another player. So I got to meet a kid from Florida. It's a huge University of Florida, guy from Sarasota. And I also acknowledge that for some of us, it was the first time we flew on a plane. And after we played in Sarasota, we were the first Cobra team to win in Florida. We then went to Disney World for 2 or 3 days. And I'm talking about 8th graders with chaperones. And the impact that had on us, all of us, you really cannot measure. But one of the things that really stuck out for me was, I was a kid who lived in a 2-family house, five of us together. And I had the opportunity to meet a guy named Clay Gossett who lived up on Wildwood Avenue. And Clay and myself, Clay was white, I'm black, and another person, Vincent Brogdon, we spent the night at his house before a game the next day. His living room was bigger than my whole house. And so when we talk about diversity in Montclair, think about a 7th grader and just what that was like and how open it was. But you never thought that if I didn't play Cobra football, that would not have occurred. And Mr. Finney, I wasn't the only one with an impact like that. Mr. Finney's, selling the stickers to pay for your registration. He made it so easy for you to play the game, and then taught you the game. And I'd be remiss, and I've said that quite a bit, if I did not acknowledge that we lost a Montclair giant, a man who really was selfless, gave up time, and opened his house to many. And so, I'm sorry, but I just would, it's just incredible that we lost him this year or last year, because he died New Christmas Eve. New Year's Eve on the 30th, not the 31st. But just his impact on thousands of kids in this township, it truly is. I have to acknowledge that, and he was different. And I'm not saying, he had his quirks about him, but, at the time, I know there was a section of Edgeonmount Park that was named after him, particularly the field where we used to practice on. And there was a rock that was supposed to be dedicated. I had conversations with his daughters, Linda and Sue. And I challenged the council before the year is over that we are to get a plaque done for him on that rock, because his contributions to the township and to the people and to the many adults or kids who are now adults cannot be measured. He was truly someone who was a treasure in this township. And as wild and crazy as he was, I will say to Linda, Doug, and Sue, and even to his wife who passed early on, that Mr. Finney was a great man and he was a great contribution to this township. And I just want to acknowledge him. So I'll cut my time with that because I can't think of anyone better that I can acknowledge tonight.
Counselor, you mentioned Sue, and you may want to note that she may have been one of the better athletes to come through Montclair High School.
She played Cobra football and then turned it into field hockey where she was an All-American. And yes, Sue Finney deserves her credit. I'm glad you like Sue and not me.
And she played hockey too, ice hockey. Yeah.
Thank you both. I will just use my remarks to certainly say that yeah, there's no question 2021 a little bit like 2020, tough year in many ways, and part of that is certainly a big part of that been the pandemic. I think as we find ourselves in this next surge here, this Omicron surge, want to make a couple points. First and foremost, it is so important that people are vaccinated, boosted, doing everything they can to try and stay safe. It is, in the sample sizes, both large and small, you talk to, there's a big difference between somebody and people will note, oh, people are still getting the virus, even though they've been vaccinated. That is true. The point of it was to try and lessen the impact and the severity of the disease as if you were able to wait and get vaccinated and then be subjected to getting it. And by all measures, that is the case. So we certainly encourage, all of us here encourage every single individual, if you are able, medically able, please, if you haven't yet, get vaccinated. If you haven't gotten your booster, get your booster. Do that. It makes the world a difference in so many ways. And I'm sure we all know the most tragic of stories and ones that are big scares of people who maybe weren't vaccinated and run into experiences because of that. So certainly we encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Can't stress that enough. And certainly as we come through this, hopefully we also see a wave like we've seen in other parts of the world where this will subside in rapid fashion and hopefully running into the large number of vaccinated individuals. And Montclair, we've got a pretty high percentage. So thank you to all those who've gotten vaccinated. And then with those who are contracting this, we have a window there and also going into the summer. Maybe we can do all we can to best position ourselves for any future variants that we encounter and move to whatever that new normal will continue to look like in the next phase of this pandemic and beyond, as we move out of the pandemic at some juncture, of course. So just using this as a big moment to say, please, in the new year, we're wishing everyone that other piece of it happy and healthy new year. And that healthy part in a pandemic, it's so important to do all we can for ourselves and others. It has an impact on others, what we do. So it is not just about just us and these decisions we're making. It impacts people who've got kids that are too young to be vaccinated. It impacts people who are immunocompromised, who are elderly. Our decisions do have impact. So please do all you can. Let's do all we can to stay safe and to keep our neighbors, friends, family members safe as well. Certainly want to say, yes, Mr. Burr welcomed you before, welcome you again. And I'm sure I say that because that's the only word I'm going to get in between all the emails that you're going to get inundated with all the million things that we all have going on. So, just that's it, ready to go, if you will. And please, thanks for doing all you can to get up to speed. Really, I think you're coming in to great work done. Obviously by our assistant town attorney, who's been working so hard to keep us in place and doing what we need to do and addressing issues. So I think you guys will be great team together here as you guys are moving forward right now in this capacity. So thank you for that and welcome there. I think as we talk about the pandemic itself, but we also talk about some of the other pieces even on the agenda for discussion tonight. One of the bigger, broader pieces is the budget work that we are going to have to do. We are still facing major impacts from this pandemic in terms of financially here in the township. Difficult decisions budget-wise will need to be made, and as we engage in that process, it's important we're all mindful of that, and we understand that all of these things need to be considered in totality as you try and look at issues and understand that you are not going to be able to provide everything that everyone wants, and also keep our taxes from increasing at rates that none of us want to see. So that dynamic, it will be ongoing. But it's an important part of the charge that we all have, and we take that very seriously. And certainly, I think from our fiscal stewardship over the last 9 years or so has shown that we're going to, make sure we're mindful and moving us in the correct direction, and continue to as well. It's helped us weather this pandemic itself. So, all in all, for a 2022, I think I am optimistic as well. I think that we are doing what we can. We are as well financially positioned as we can be. We've got a challenge ahead financially, yes, but I think we're going to figure that out, and we'll continue to do that. We're going to make sure that we are working through the county with the county to make sure people are getting vaccinated as needed, boosted as needed, and whatever else the future holds. We're going to make sure that we are supporting our nonprofits, as we did some tonight, and doing that work to make sure that those that are in need are supported by us, as that's what the role of government is. That role of public service, our charge to help others, and we're going to keep doing that work. We're going to keep doing it in a way that is prudent to the cost to all of us in our taxes and otherwise. So I look forward to the year ahead, to my council colleagues. Look forward to working with all of you in the year ahead that we have. Wishing all of you health and happiness too, and your families. And know that we all stand ready to do the work that lies ahead of us. So thank you very much, everybody. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Before we do that, I did think of one other thing I really wanted to say, and it's just a point of personal privilege and pride. My daughter, Sonia, started an internship on Capitol Hill today. So I just feel very happy about that for her, and I think she will become another good public servant in her own way, and I just wanted to share my excitement over that before I close my final remarks.
Under Robert's rules, I believe parental privilege is one of the higher standing orders. So yes, you can jump in with that anytime. So yes, congratulations to her. That's good stuff. That's awesome. So well done. Awesome.
Good luck to her.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So it's been moved and seconded by all in favor. Please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night,
Have a
all.
great
Good night,
day.
everybody.
Good
Happy
one.
New Year.
Good night, everybody.